We're learning the third Sikhe of Parshas Vayeilech in Chelek Yutes, page 315. This shir is being learned L'Nishmas Rav Yosef ben Yamin ben Rav Menashe Koltman. In Pasuk Vayichtav Moshe es HaTorah Azos. So the Pasuk says in this week's Parsha, Moshe Rabbeinu wrote a Torah, Vayitna L'Kayin b'nei Levi Hanoisim es Haroim Bris Hashem. So he gave the Torah to the Kayinim b'nei Levi, the ones that carry the Aron, Ve'el Kol Ziknei Yisrael. And also, Moshe Rabbeinu wrote additional Torahs and he gave it to all of the elders of the Yidden. Stellt sich der Rogatchover of die Wörter HaKayinim b'nei Levi. So the Rogatchover asks regarding the words that the Torah describes the Kayinim, and it describes them as the Kayinim, the B'nei Levi, from the tribe of Levi. Der Lashon, this expression of HaKayinim b'nei Levi, that the Kayinim belong to the tribe of Levi, steht euch früher in Seif Parsha Shoftim. The Torah uses it as well earlier in Parsha Shoftim, by the din for Egla Rufa, when it discusses the halacha of Egla Rufa. And there it says, V'nikshu HaKayinim b'nei Levi Gaime, that it's the Kayinim from the sons of Levi, from the tribe of Levi, that are there to take care of what has to be taken care of by the Egla Rufa. Zog dar to Sifri. So there's the Sifri explains, why does it describe them as the Kayinim and also as b'nei Levi? Ein li ela tmimim. Because I would think that these Kayinim have to be whole, meaning they have to be without any blemish. How do I know that even a kain that has a blemish in his body could also do the Egla Rufa? That's why the Torah writes B'nei Levi. The says as the Yitu Loshem B'nei Levi, the extra two words B'nei Levi, kumt mar b'zayin azayich kainim balimumins and a kosher Egla Rufa. It tells me that even kainim with a blemish are kosher to make the Egla Rufa. That's what the Sifri says there in the parsha of Egla Rufa. Now, so the question here is, V'kan mai, over here, why is the Torah adding that he gave it to the Kayinim b'nei Levi? Was kommt der Pasuk mar b'zayin mit diverte b'nei Levi? What is the Torah adding here by saying these two words? Da, over here, hatach ken artnit zu lernen, as the Pasuk is mar b'balimumin. It doesn't make any sense to say that by writing b'nei Levi, it's adding and saying that this includes even Kayinim with blemishes. V'bald, da retzach nit wegen aveide v'chayetze b'zeh. Here, we're not discussing any kind of Avodah, even something like Egla Rufa, which Balimumin are allowed, but there's nothing that the Kayinim are doing here. For Balimum is an apostle, only regarding something like Avodah or related to Avodah, there, a Kayin with a blemish is possible. It can't do the Avodah. But over here, we're simply talking about Moshe Rabbeinu writing a Sefer Torah and giving it for the Kayinim. Why is it adding B'nei Levi? Und das ist von der gezählte Erte, wo der Rogatchover bleibt bei Kasha. This is from the few places where the Rogatchover asks a question and he doesn't give an answer. The Rebbe brings in footnote 6 that the Friediger Rebbe said about the Rogatchover that he's Sar HaTorah. So you can understand that this is a very strong question. Vigeret kam upon him, it was already said many times, Kemen areisname from Pirish Rashi al HaTorah in Yonam Mufloim, Oich and Shah Chelki HaTorah. Even though the main focus of Rashi is to explain the literal meaning, the pshat of the pasuk, but nevertheless, from what Rashi says, you can understand other wondrous matters regarding other areas in Torah as well. And the same is true over here regarding our subject, these two extra words, B'nei Levi. As leit Pirish Rashi, verdafka al pipshute shemikra, di oibim gebrachte kashya v'amfit. So according to Rashi, when you learn the pasuk in its simple literal understanding, the above mentioned question regarding B'nei Levi will be answered. So let's see what Rashi says. Rashi is mefadish in unser pasuk. So Rashi explains, the pasuk says, Vayichtav Moshe v'goyim v'yitna. That Moshe Rabbeinu wrote the Sefer Torah, and then he gave it. So what Rashi says is, Keshenigmara kula, when it was all completed, Nasna levnei shiftai. He gave it to his tribe, which is the Kayinim b'nei Levi. Das was Rashi sagt, Keshenigmara kula. When Rashi here says, when he completed it all, what is Rashi clarifying by this? Is muvan. So this is understood, as the Mefarshim on Rashi here explain. One shouldn't think to say, the pasuk that said, since the pasuk here tells us that Moshe Rabbeinu wrote these svarah, the Sefer Torah, and he also gave it. He gave it to the B'nei Levi. As Moshe Rabbeinu the Sefer Torah geschrieben, nor bis der Pasha und nicht weiter. So therefore one would think that Moshe Rabbeinu must have written the Sefer Torah only up until this point. Over here, we're in Parshas Vayeilech, but the remainder, Vayhazinu and V'zei Sabracha, was not written. Und hat gegeben an nit the Shribene, and therefore he gave it to the B'nei Levi, the Kayin of B'nei Levi, not completely finished to the end. Therefore Rashi says, that he gave it to the Kohen B'nai Levi when he completed writing the entire Sefer Torah until the end. That's what Rashi is clarifying here. And the Rebbe adds, the mit is verstandig, was Rashi is meitig in Dibra Maschel, euch dem Wort, vayitna v'chulu. With this we understand why Rashi brings in the beginning of the Dibra Maschel, the Rashi, the word vayitna in the pasuk. And Rashi doesn't just simply say very concisely Vayichtiv Moshe Kula, that Moshe Rabbeinu wrote the entire Sefer Torah. If that's the point that Rashi is coming to clarify, that he included also the end Hazinu and B'zei Sabracha, why doesn't Rashi just write one word on the words Vayichtiv Moshe that he wrote it all? Weil from Vayichtiv Alein is nitokin hechrech adas is Kula. Because when the Torah writes that he wrote the Sefer Torah, that actually might be only until this point. Lav Dafka, he wrote the entire Sefer Torah. After the pasuk says Vayitna, that he gave it now to the Bnei Levi, is das machriach to sagen as the Vayichtav men kula. This is what forces us to say that he actually wrote it until the end. Because he will not give it to the Kohen of Bnei Levi if it's not fully completed. So therefore we must say that Moshe Rabbeinu did write the Sefer Torah and complete it until the end, and he gave it to them. That's what Rashi is clarifying when he writes Kishenigmera Kula. As is going to move on the siyum from Pirish Rashi. However, the conclusion of Rashi, it's not understood. What does Rashi say? Nasnal of Shiftai, he gave it to the ones of his Shevet, to the Kohen of Bnei Levi. So seemingly, why does Rashi have to add this? Chazet ad iberda, das, that is, was das steht in Pasuk Gufa. Rashi is just repeating what the Pasuk clearly says. Vayitna ela Kohenim Bnei Levi hanoisim es arayim v'gaymer. That he gave it to the Kohen of Bnei Levi, the ones that carry the Aron. So why does Rashi have to add this fact that the pasuk says clearly? Now, so the Rebbe suggests as follows: Oy, Rashi kommt bavaranen as Kohenim da meint nit blois Kohenim nor bnei Shiftoi der Shevet Levi b'chlalos. If we're going to say that what Rashi is coming to clarify is that when it says here in the pasuk that he gave the Torah to the Kohenim, it doesn't mean specifically to the Kohenim, but it means to all of his tribe, which is the Shevet Levi in general, which Moshe Rabbeinu was from. Maybe that's what Rashi is coming to clarify. Is vidakashe? So if so, the question comes up. Der Lashon Kohen B'nei Levi steht schon früher, kana. This expression, Kohen B'nei Levi, it already says earlier in the Torah, as quoted before in Parsha Shoftim. Und dort meint es nit Shevet Levi b'chlal. There, it does not refer to the Shevet Levi in general, nor dafke the Kohenim. There, the ones that make the Eglah Rufa are only the Kohenim. The pasuk is dort mamshech, as the pasuk there clearly continues and says, Kibam bachar Hashem l'sharsai ulevarech gaimer v'piyim yeh kol riv v'chol nega. They're the ones that serve Hashem and bench the Yidden. According to their mouth, any argument will be settled, and the halachas of Negayim will also be brought to a Kohen. Was das meant Kohenim dafke? So obviously there, Kohen B'nei Levi refers only to the Kohenim, not the entire Shevet Levi. Azay steht euch dem Lashon HaKohenim HaLeviim, very similar, the expression of the Kohenim, the Leviim, kam upon in Torah. It says it a number of times in Torah. And metum meint is blois Kohenim. Whenever the Torah adds HaKohenim together with HaLeviim, it always refers to just the Kohenim. Wie Rashi teacht by the Ersten Mal, as Rashi says the first time the Torah uses this expression, HaKohenim HaLeviim means HaKohenim sheyatzu mishevet Levi. It refers specifically to the Kohenim which come from Shevet Levi, but it doesn't refer to the entire Shevet Levi. So the question here is, so what forces Rashi to say here, as Vayitna la Kohenim B'nei Levi meint Levnei Shiftei? That when the Torah says that he gave the Sefer Torah to Kohen B'nei Levi, that this means to his entire Shevet, Gans Shevet Levi, all of Shevet Levi. If that's what Rashi is coming to explain when he adds these words, Nasnal of Shifta, that he gave it to his entire tribe, to all of Shevet Levi. Why should we say so? Different than every other time the Torah uses a similar expression. Hagam. Now, even though you may say that over here it's different, as the pasuk Gufa is Messiah, here the pasuk itself concludes it and says, Hanoisim esarayim bris Hashem. He gave it to the ones that carry the Aron, that carry the Holy Ark, which has the Luchas in it. And the Noisi Arons and the Gevent the Leviim. Who are the ones that carried the Aron? They were actually the Leviim, not the Kohenim. So that's why here, HaKohen B'nei Levi refers to all the Shevet Levi. It's different than other times. However, the Rebbe says this is not a raya. Kemen is mefarish zayin. You can explain this over here, wie the Cheskuni, as the Cheskuni says, aseretzich wegen the Kohenim. Even when it says the ones that carry Aron Bris Hashem, it is referring to the Kohenim. Welche haben zugegräht dem Aron, als die Leviim sollen kennen es tragen, They are the ones that prepared the Aron for the Levim to be able to carry it. They are the ones that appointed the Bnei Kahas to be the ones to carry the Aron. As it says in the end of Parshas Bamidbar. So when it says there Kainim carrying the Aron, it refers literally to the Kainim. Even though this is not a smooth understanding of the words Hanoisim Esaroim Bris Hashem. Noisim means simply the ones that carry. Nevertheless, this is still more the simple and literal understanding of the pasuk than to interpret and say as mitakayanim b'nei Levi. Even though the Torah spells out hakayanim, the kayanim b'nei Levi, ved gemeint oich nit kayanim gans shevet Levi. Included in this is not just the kayanim, but it means the entire shevet Levi. So therefore, why doesn't Rashi accept the pshat that the Cheskuni says, the pshat that fits with the simple word of the pasuk hakayanim, and similar to every other time it uses this expression of hakayanim b'nei Levi or hakayanim alavim, that it refers only to the kayanim and not to the entire shevet? Either way, those words anaisim es arim bris Hashem is not going to be literal, that all of the Levim carry the Aron. Because they don't. Only Bnei Kahas were the ones that carry the Aron. So when it says Hanaisim Esarayim Bris Hashem, it can't be understood literally. So we could say like the Cheskuni, that it refers to the Kainim that appoint the Bnei Kahas to carry. So the question over here is, what is Rashi saying when he tells us that Moshe Rabbeinu gave it to the Kainim and in Lastnal of Nei Shifta, he gave it his entire Shevet? What does Rashi mean by this? The beer in them, the explanation here is, really, even here, wie in the andere psukim, like in all other psukim, when we see this expression, learn to Rashi is understanding this as Vayitna elakainim b'nei Levi meint as the nisine b'poil is given nor to kainim. That when it says he gave it to the kainim b'nei Levi, he actually gave it only to the kainim. However, take mahai time stellt sich the shaila was as bevarent as bepirushe. And because of this, there's a question here which Rashi comes to clarify with his words in his Pirush. Moshe Rabbeinu hat die Sefer Torah gegeben, wie die Pasuk is Messiah euch, weil kol ziknei Yisrael. Besides this, Moshe Rabbeinu wrote Sefer Torah and gave it to all of the elders of the Yidden. So alle Shiftei Yisrael, he wrote another 11 Sefer Torah, so maybe 12, and he gave it to all the other Shvatim of the Yidden. Was die Zikanim seine gewesen sehr Vertreter. The Zikanim that got the Sefer Torah for the rest of Klal Yisrael were representing all of the Yidden to receive a Torah for them. So haint if so, wie bald as in the Sinus HaTorah to HaKainim b'nei Levi is given blois to the Kainim, learning the simple pshat of the pasuk. HaKainim means that the Sefer Torah that he wrote was given only to the Kainim. Kum tachais. If so, it comes out as the Sinus HaSefer Torah is given to alle Shiftei Yisrael. All Yidden got a Sefer Torah, achutz the Levim from Shevet Levi. Besides, the Levim of Shevet Levi did not get a Sefer Torah. The Kainim got a Sefer Torah. All the Yidden got a Sefer Torah, but not Shevet Levi. How could this be? The far is Rashi madgish b'pirushai. So therefore, Rashi emphasizes and explains nitna nosna, that is Levnei Shiftai. He gave it to the ones of his Shevet. As das was Moshe Rabbeinu had given the Sefer Torah to the Kayanim, that this that Moshe Rabbeinu gave the Sefer Torah to the Kayanim, hat es gemeint an es sinne Levnei Shiftai. The point was that he's giving it to the Kayanim for his entire Shevet. Weil die Kayanim haben in dem vertraten dem ganzen Shevet Levi, because the Kayanim are receiving the Sefer Torah representing the entire Shevet Levi. Punkt, wie kol Zikni Yisrael haben es genommen als kol Shiftei Yisrael. Just as it was with the elders of the Yidden that took the Sefer Torah for and representing all of Klal Yisrael, all the other tribes of the Yidden. So that's what Rashi is saying. So he actually gave it to the Kayanim, but for the sake of and representing all of Shevet Levi. Das ist the time was the pasuk is Meisav HaKayanim b'nei Levi. This explains why the pasuk adds that he gave it to the Kayanim, and the pasuk describes that the Kayanim are b'nei Levi, from the tribe of Levi. The Sefer Torah was not given to them for who they are as special individuals, as Kayanim, removed from Levi. Nor it was given to them as Kayanim from Shevet Levi, from Shevet Levi. Now, the Kayanim, which are Sarim from Shevet Levi, Kayanim, one of the meanings of Kayanim means that they are the ministers of the whole tribe. So they're similar to the elders of each individual Shevet, and they are the representative of the entire Shevet. Now, the Rebbe clarifies an important point here. Hagam, although as Bechlal Zenedikayanim Bahavdollah from Shevet Levi, we find the Torah says that the Kainim are separated completely from the rest of the Shevet. The Rebbe in Orah 19 brings the pasuk where it says, "Vayavdil Aaron lakdisha kodesh kadashim hu banav adaylam," that Hashem separated the Kainim from all the Shevet Levi. So they are, and not only that, amachne shchina farzich, the places where the Kainim are camping, they are in a separate place. They're considered to be the machne shchina, not part of machne Levi at all. So they're separate even in their place where they camp. So how can we say that they take the Torah representing all the Shevet Levi? Is the Pirish in them? So the meaning of this is, according to the Pshat of the Pasuk, nicht, als sie sind in ganzen abgeteilt geworden von Shevet Levi. It's not that Hashem completely separated them and elevated them above and removed of the whole Shevet of Levi. Not, rather, as in Suga, to their Mailas Alaviyah, in addition to their level that they had, being a Levi, haben sie euch Mailas HaKahona. They also have the Maila of being Kainim, but it doesn't remove them from being part of the Shevet, and therefore they receive the Torah representing the entire Shevet. From the achachas of them. So from the proofs that we can bring from the psukim for this, Aleph number 1, Rashi bringt it up in Ani Parshas Vayeilech. In the beginning of Parshas Vayeilech, Rashi says, Lama nismecha Parshas HaMenorah la Parshas HaNesiyim. Why is the parsha of lighting the menorah? When the Torah says the Vayeilech Haneres, Aaron will light the neres, why does that say right after all of the karbanis that the Nesiyim brought by the inauguration of the Mishkan? So the answer is because Shekashara Aaron Chanukas HaNesiyim, when Aaron HaKayin saw the inauguration of the Mishkan, the karbanis that all the Nesiyim brought, Shaloi Hayim Ma'im, and he did not merit to be along with them. Layu v'loy Shiftoi, not he, not Aaron himself, and Rashi adds, not his entire tribe, which is the whole Shevet Levi. Amalei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem answers him and says, Chayecha, I can promise you in your life, what you do, lighting the menorah, is greater what they do. You light and prepare and clean out the lamps of the menorah. So what does Rashi here say? What's from them is muchach. From the words of Rashi, it's clear, as chach, as that inyu von adlokas v'atovas haneres is shayach nar to Aaron Kohuna. Although lighting the menorah is specifically for Aaron HaKayin, the Kohuna, for Kainim. Is es aber a Statfus from dem ganzen Shevet. Aaron, lighting the menorah, is considered to be the participation of the entire Shevet in the inauguration of the Mishkan. The Rebbe hat mit abgenommen dem Fadras was leihu v'lei shiftechol. With this, Hashem took away the fact that Aaron was disappointed or upset about his not participating, but not only himself, but also regarding the entire Shevet. That the entire Shevet did not bring the karbanis for the inauguration of the Mishkan. So what do we understand from this? That Aaron HaKayin, lighting the menorah, as a Kayin, is representing the entire Shevet. So we see here, as the Rebbe pointed out, that yes, the Kayinim are separated from the Shevet, but also remain as part of the Shevet as well. The fact that they are elevated above and separate from the Shevet is an additional thing. And therefore the lighting of the menorah is still also representing the Shevet. Beis, another place where we see this, nach der Machlokes Kairach. After the Machlokes of Kairach, hat der Rebbe gesagt zu Moshe, Hashem tells Moshe Rabbeinu, kach mi'ita mata mata geime, take from all the Yidden a staff, shnei masa matas geime, 12 of them, ve'es shem Aaron tichtov mata Levi, and you write the name of Aaron HaKayin on the staff that comes from the tribe of Levi. So again we see the connection to the entire tribe. Ki mata echad geime. There's only one of them is going to be chosen. Uvi Rashi taich, then Rashi there says ki mata echad. What does mata echad mean? So here Rashi explains that mata echad means as follows: Afal pi shechilaktem l'shtei mishpachas. Even though I divided Shevet Levi into two families, mishpachas Kohona levad, Levi levad. There is the family of the Kainim separately and the family of the Leviim separately. Nevertheless, Rashi says they are considered to be one Shevet, so there's one Mata that's taken for both together. So again, we see this point that the Kainim are together with the rest of the Shevet, and therefore we could say that the Kainim received the Sefer Torah for the entire Shevet, representing the entire Shevet. Now coming back to what the Rogatchover says regarding the words Kainim b'nei Levi, that earlier, by Egla Rufa, the words b'nei Levi come to include even a kain that has a mum. Even a kain with a blemish can do the Egla Rufa. So what would that mean here? We can now apply all of this and understand, learning these extra words b'nei Levi according to halacha. Was motiviert HaKayin b'nei Levi is the pasuk Seif Pashas Shoftim Mar beBali Mumen. So there the Sifri says that the extra words b'nei Levi is coming to include even Kayin and Bali Mumen. How would that apply over here? So the point is as follows: Kishein vi Bali Mumen, just like it is with Kayinim that have a blemish. Hagam zezenen kainim. They are still kainim. They're different from all the Levim. Biz as eichlin b'kotche kotchem. They're kainim in the sense that they can eat from the kotche kotchem of the karbonis. But the achil is machaper. The eating is not just simply eating, but the eating itself is an atonement. Nevertheless, they are referred to as strangers. In other words, not part of the kainim when we compare them to the kainim that are whole, that don't have a blemish. The expression that says in Yerushalmi, "Hu zar, hu balmum." Person that's a zar, he's strange. He's not part of the kainim. Is a kain that has a blemish. So similar as any the Bnei Levi, we can say the same about the Bnei Levi, all a Shevet Levi. Although they are one tribe, mitikainim, together along with the kainim, as it ever proved before. But nevertheless, they are considered to be a level lower. They're strangers regarding the kainim that were elevated to a higher level to serve in the Beis Hamikdash. And therefore, because of this example, here we see this comparison that just like we say that Bnei Levi are one tribe with the Kainim, but nevertheless they're considered to be separate of all the Kainim, it's the same also with the Bali Mumin. The Bali Mumin, the Yerushalmi refers to as a Zar, but nevertheless, because the Torah writes Bnei Levi, they're also included together with the entire tribe. Okay, so that's the meaning of Bnei Levi. So just like we could say this regarding the expression of Bnei Levi B'chlal, we could say this also be earlier in Parsha Shoftim. The same is true over here with the expression of Bnei Levi regarding the Sefer Torah. The fact that the Sefer Torah was given to the Kainim is nit given tzlieb zer kedushas hakahuna farzich. They didn't receive this because of the level of sanctity that they had as Kainim for themselves, special, unique, separated from the Leviim. Not als Kainim b'nei Levi. They were given the Sefer Torah as the Kainim, part of Shevet Levi. Als Kainim was then an oich kailel dem inyan alaviyah. Kainim, which also includes the fact that they are the Leviim. Even though a Levi is a Zar, is not connected to the level of a Kain. But nevertheless, the Sefer Torah is being given to the Kayin as one of the Leviim. And therefore this includes also the Bali Mumin, that although the Bali Mumin are not on the level of a regular Kayin and is considered to be a Zar, in contrast to a Kayin, that's a Tamim, a Tam. So, but nevertheless, they are included as well. So we could understand there now how the drasha that the Sifri says in Parsha Shoftim applies over here as well by the Torah adding Bnei Levi, that the Kayinim received the Sefer Torah representing the entire Shevet Levi. Therefore it includes the Bali Mumin as well. However, one point over here is still not smoothly understood. Since the fact remains that the Kainim are still separated from all the Leviim. As the Rebbe pointed out before, the Kainim had a camp for themselves, separate from the Leviim. So why did they not get a separate Sefer Torah for themselves, for their level that they are on, as ministers for the as separated from the Leviim, and not as ministers for the Leviim? So really, this still needs to be explained why they did not get a separate Sefer Torah for themselves. Similar, we could ask regarding the two places that the Rebbe pointed out from before in the Torah. Aleph, Hadlokas v'atovas haneris, was b'makom chanukas hamishkan v'mizbeach. The lighting, the preparing the lamps of the menorah that took the place of the inauguration, the karbanos that were brought for the Mishkan, the Mizbeach, and also the other example that Rebbe brought, Mata the Machlekes Kairach, the staff that was brought there after the argument with Kairach. Pavasat men dorten nit abgeteilt die Kainim from the Leviim. Over there as well, the question is, why were the Kainim not separated from the Leviim for these two matters? On the contrary, it would actually be very logical they should be separated. In the all 3 points that we're speaking about here, it would be logical to separate the Kainim from the rest of the Shevet, from the rest of Levi, as the Rebbe explains regarding each one of these subjects here. Aleph number 1, benidden die dan. Over here we're speaking about giving a Sefer Torah. Chotches steht of ganz Shevet Levi, Yoiru mishpatach ala Yaakov, v'seiraschal Yisrael, that the entire Shevet Levi teaches the halachas and the Torah for all of Yidden. As they alle davon lernen Torah mit Yidden, they learn Torah with Yidden von deswegen. But nevertheless, haben die Kainim euch dem a besonder tafkid. We see that the Kainim have a separate position that they have to fill in teaching Yidden. Was dafka if they state, it's only regarding the Kainim that the pasuk says, Uvasa la koyanim gomer. You come to the koyanim, vigidu locha, and they'll tell you what to do. Al pi atayra sheyerucha, and they teach you the halacha. Val pi emiyah kol rivachal nega. As the Rabbi quoted before, it's only according to the koyanim that they settle every argument and the halachas of a nega as well. Was das gefindt man it by Levim bechlal, and this we don't find regarding all the Levim. Hat man sich gedacht, geben die Sefer Torah Bazunder nicht zusammen mit the Levim. So if so, the Sefer Torah should have been given to them separately for this unique level that they were on, that they had to teach on a much greater level, nicht zusammen mit the Levim, not together with the rest of the Levim. That's regarding the Sefer Torah. Beis, the mitzvah von Adlokas Vatovas Haner is similar when it comes to the mitzvah of lighting and cleaning out and preparing the lamps of the menorah. Is doch shaykh nar zu kohanim. This is something that belongs only for the kohanim. It's specifically their mitzvah. V'kolosh and Rashi now, as Rashi says, Sha'ato madlik ametu v'saneris. You are an kohen, are the one that prepare and light the menorah. Und Levim is an Oster bezeh, gleich v'kol shifte Yisrael, and therefore the hatava, at least when it comes to the hatava, as far as lighting the menorah, so the Rebbe asked before in the ha'ara, but at least when it comes to preparing the neder, so this is something only for Aaron HaKohen, for the Kohanim, and not for the rest of the Levim, just like all other Yidden that are not allowed to do this. So the Kohanim should be separately, that their participation in the Chanukas HaMizbeach is, or the Chanukas HaMishkan is with the Menorah, and the Levim should participate separately, like the other Shvatim. Why are they, the Levim, being represented with the Kohanim that light the Menorah? Gimel, now the third case, the Taina from Koirach, Umaduat is Nasu Akal Hashem. The whole argument of Koirach was, why are the Kohanim raising themselves above of the rest of the congregation? Is Bechlal el Geven of Shevet Levi. His whole argument was not regarding the whole Shevet Levi. Koirach Alein is the Geven Levi. Koirach himself was part of Levi. No Dafke, Oiv Kohuna Bifnei Atzma. His whole argument was specifically regarding the Kohuna. V'er Zoktu Bikashtem Gam Kohuna, that you want to be a Kohen, to be elevated on a higher level of a Kohen. Und die Matais sind doch gewöhnlich mishmeres lois. The whole point of having these staffs, and Hashem will prove who is chosen, and it will be a sign forever as v'leyoinu edel ha-kohuna, that they're not going to come to complain again regarding who is chosen to be the kohen. Wird doch gewöhnt masim, as die kohenim sollen haben a mata for sich. So wouldn't it be appropriate that the kohenim should have a staff for themselves, not along with the rest of Shevet Levi? So that's the question that remains regarding all these three subjects that we're speaking about. Why are the kohenim included together with Shevet Levi? Is the bir bezeh b'pnimi yisanyanim. So this could be explained according to Chassidus on a deeper level, understanding what the Kohanim and the Levim's Aveda represents in Beruchnius. Chach, aside the Kohanim, aside the Levim, both, yes, it's true, the Kohanim and the Levim sind in einer Reis geheben geworden von alle Yidden zu dienen dem Eibischen und sein Muvdel von Yoni Yolam Hazeh. They were elevated above of all the Yidden to serve Hashem, and they are separated from all matters of this world to be in the Beis HaMikdash and to serve Hashem there. Nevertheless, there's a distinction between the Kohanim and the Levim. A Kohen tar sich nicht mit Tame sein, und der Rebbe tar nicht arizgene Chutzlaretz. A Kohen may not become Tame in order to be able to do his Aveda, and therefore he may not go into Chutzlaretz. Aber if a Levi is not Isser, regarding a Levi, there is no Isser for him to become Tame. Das heißt, what this means is as follows. A Kohen is in ganzen Muvdel von Inyanim shel Hepech HaKdusha v'Atara. A Kohen is completely separated from anything that's opposite of holiness and purity. By him, by a Kohen, there may not be anything that's tummy in his life. He may not even become tummy. He has to stay away from it altogether. Mashenken by a Levi is not abgefragt an inyan von tummy. On the other hand, though, when it comes to the Bnei Levi, by the Shevet Levi in general, by them, it's not out of the question to become tummy. Aber as adaf ton avodah to Levim, when they have to enter into the Beis HaMikdash and do the avodah to serve what the Levim did, darf sich mitayir sein. So then he will have to purify himself to come to do the avodah, but it's not Oster for him to become tummy. Al derech zeh, so now we can understand according to this, is as in the Madreges Kohuna or Levim as in da by Yidden. This is also true regarding the levels of Kohuna and Levim that exist by every single Yid. You have all of this represented in the neshama, in the levels of the neshama of a Yid. Bechinas Kayin, the level of Kayin by a Yid, is the Madrege in Nefesh. This is the level in the soul of a Yid. Was Dorten is Nita, Ririt Nitan, Kain Tumah. This is the level of the Avodah of a Yid where there is no, it doesn't even touch, it doesn't reach there any Tumah whatsoever. On Bechinas Levi Shabai, the level of the Levi that's in a Yid, is the madrege wo Tumah can't reading. This is the level of Tumah where this is the level in the neshama of a Yid, that is, where the Tumah can't reach there and could touch there and could affect the Yid. And the Avodah mitzad der madrege is zum mevatel zayin, which is tefillah. Oisi is a bittul Tumah. And here on this level, you are going to have to nullify this. You're going to have to get rid of this Tumah by tefillah, by going to the mikveh. And tefillah, the letters of tefillah is the same letters as habittul, by being mevatel yourself to Hashem completely and getting rid of the Tumah. So that's the difference between the Avodah of the Kohanim and the Avodah of the Leviim. Kohanim are completely removed of any Tumah altogether, and the Leviim, the Tumah is not out of the question, but when they come to serve, they're going to have to get rid of this Tumah. And under Werte, so to explain the difference between the Kohanim and Leviim and their relation to Tumah, or B'lashon Tanya, and to use the expression that the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya. Kohen is their matziv avodah von eshabcha. A Kohen represents a level of avodah where everything is transformed only into holiness. Says nitok kein ra. There is no evil that exists. Al derech, the Alter Rebbe in Tanya speaks about madana, when you have delicacies, mimacholim, arevim, umesukim, from foods that are sweet and delicious, that are completely, utterly only sweet and delicious. That's the avodah of a Kohen, which is all within kedusha, and there is no place for anything that's not holy. Leviim, however, the avodah of the Leviim represents a skafia. When a person has a connection to something that's impure and he has to subdue it. You have to break the bad, the evil, and you have to nullify it, eradicate it. Valderech, madanim, this is similar to delicacies, midvarim, charifim, echamutzim, when you have things that are sharp or that are sour, rakshem utubalim, umusuganim, heitev but are spiced up and are prepared to make it edible or make it even geschmack to eat through all the spices. But that's a different kind of avodah. That's where there is a battle and a struggle with sitra achra, and then you have to eradicate and subdue the evil to serve Hashem. Those are the two levels of avodah, the Kohanim and the Leviim, as always known as hapcha and eskafia. So now based on this we can understand indeed regarding the three subjects that we're speaking about here. The Kohanim from the Leviim. We do not separate the Kohanim from the rest of the Leviim. Because the purpose and the point of these three things that we're speaking about, the point over here is, again, is to bavaren u'mesaken zayin inyan bilti ratzi. Here, in these three subjects that we're speaking about, the writing of the Sefer Torah, the lighting of the menorah, and the argument with Kairach, is all to forewarn and to rectify, to elevate something which is not good, something which was negative. So this kind of avodah is not related to the level of the Kohanim themselves, which are completely removed of anything that's evil, nor mitchinas Levi davke. This is the level of the Kohanim that are representing the entire Shevet Levi, because this is the level of the Levi, the Skafia. Und the Rebbe is a filler by the Kohanim Gufe given nit to live Mailas HaKahuna shebehem, nor mitzad inyan HaLeviya shebehem. Therefore, although we see that the Kohanim were singled out regarding these three matters, but nevertheless, the Kohanim as part of Shevet Levi, not the Kohanim completely separate, because this is an avodah that relates to the whole Shevet Levi. As the Rabbi will explain each one separately here. Va'abiyur, the explanation here for this is as follows. Aleph, number one, benidin didan, what we're speaking about here in our parsha, in our case. The sinas ha-Sefer Torah is given. Giving the Sefer Torah to them was nitzulib, learning Torah stam. It wasn't just to learn Torah, nor be'ikir, kadei tzubavaranen an hage bilti ritzuya, but mainly to forewarn that there should be no inappropriate or things that are behavior that is negative. Was der Vater hat die Sefer Torah gegeben, darf noch die Techaches Christus Bris von Parshas Tove und Nitzaven. And therefore, the Torah here is being given after all of the rebuke that comes in Parshas Kisavai and similar in Parshas Nitzavim, the bris of the Eibishter, in order to strengthen the Yidden to use the Torah and to stay away from things that a Yid is not supposed to be connected to. So this is an Aveda which is empowering Yidden when they have to subdue that power of Klippa that might threaten them. So therefore, this is not related to the Kohanim, where there is no struggle and there is no connection to evil at all, but this is related to the Kohanim as part of Shevet Levi. Very similar, we could say adlakas v'atovas haneres, lighting or primarily preparing the lamps of the menorah. Hat gehata full verbund Hat gehata verbund mit chol shodaite. This was related to this that Aaron HaKohen and the whole Shevet, that is, felt bad. They all felt like, why weren't we involved with it? Von Aaron. But das is that nur von Tshuva. This in of Chalishas Hadas, when one feels like he was left out, and therefore he feels like he wasn't part of this. So this is related to a certain level of tshuva, that Aaron HaKohen came and wanted to be part of something that he wasn't part of. So this is a tshuva, a certain level of tshuva. Was nennt sich mitzad bechinas Levi shabai. And therefore this is a kind of avodah that comes from the level of Levi in the Kohen. Because this is someone that had a relation to something that's not good or not perfect, and then he wants to return and be better and higher. So that's the avodah of a Levi. That's related to something that's bilti rotzi, that's negative. Uklalusa, and also regarding the lighting of the menorah itself. So in general, what is the menorah all about? The light of the menorah is being lit not for the Beis Hamikdash itself, but to provide light to the whole world. The whole point of the light, and even a little bit of light, is here to dispel darkness. In other words, it relates to the existence of darkness, and the light is here to dispel that darkness. So therefore this is related to the Leviim, the Kohanim, part of Shevet Levi, which is dispelling darkness. And Gimel, finally, the last point, when it comes to Machlekes Kairach, when it comes to the argument of Kairach. Kichas ha-matos at kahata shayches, the whole point of having these matos, the staffs here, was all in relation to some bittul v'tikkun from Machlekes Kairach, to nullify and to rectify the argument of Kairach. V'yeshteit v'ashikaisi me'alayis tlunis b'nei Yisrael, I will quiet down the complaints of Klal Yisrael. Und der Ribber is in the Kohanim not given is geteilt from Shevet Levi by the drei Inyanim. So therefore we can understand why the Kohanim are not separated from the Levi regarding all three matters, because here in all three matters we're discussing things that the Kohanim are related to something negative, and therefore this has to be an avodah of the Kohanim representing the Leviim. However, here the Rebbe adds and says, and beautifully the Rebbe ties this together, but still, the end of the day, so why are these three things specifically for the Kohanim and not for the Leviim? On the other hand, sind die Kohanim und Aaron, Kohanim and Aaron, die Shluchim von Shevet Levi durchzuführen die drei Sachen. They were specifically the ones that were the Shluchim, the messengers, the agents, to do this avodah of these three things for the Levi. Because here, through the fact that on one hand they represent Levi, but yet in actuality it's the Kohanim that are doing it, so therefore this will include in it both advantages. The advantage of the avodah of the Leviim and the avodah of the Kohanim. The chinas Levi ve'eskafia, the level of Levi, which is also eskafia, is misaken demra, when in a place where you have to come down and deal with the evil and to rectify it. And the bechinas kayin, but also the level of the kayin, which is his hapche, the meile, the advantage of his hapche, the complete transformation. Their tikkun hara is betachlis hashlemus, to completely rectify the evil with its absolute perfection, where it has no relation to evil at all. In a naifin, von his hapche, chasheichel and ahoire, in a manner of completely transforming darkness into light, umeriru lemiske, and bitterness into sweetness, as vert kulei toiv, to the point that it becomes completely and utterly good.